Hey guys, Bushcraft Jerry here. Today we're gonna actually be doing some bushcrafting. I know lately we've been talking a lot about prepping, and that's all we've been doing is talking, or I've been doing. But today I'm actually gonna show you guys some bushcrafting stuff. Sorry it took so long, but today is the day. And on my Bushcraft Jerry Instagram, I'm not sure if it's on my Facebook, but it's definitely on my Instagram. One of the first posts on there is the first fire I ever made using a ferrocerium rod and a cotton ball with Vaseline. And today I'm going to show you guys how I did that. I'm not going to make a honking huge fire. I'm just going to show you that it can be done. Now this is my ferrocerium rod that I'll be using. I picked this up at the Army Surplus in Winnipeg here. And for you guys who don't know much about a ferrocerium rod, it is different than flint and steel. The ferrocerium is some kind of metal alloy. I'm not sure what's all in it, but it's not flint. It's a lot harder to make a fire with flint and steel because the ferrocerium rod throws a much hotter spark. I think it's around, I want to say 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the ferrocerium rod spark. I'm not sure what the temperature is of a flint and steel spark, but it's much colder. Sounds weird calling a spark cold, but it's all relative, right? So I'll just show you a couple things that I was doing wrong and why I couldn't get a fire going for so long. And they're very basic. Once you know what not to do, the rest is pretty easy. The striker and the ferrocerium rod comes on a rope like this. You have to take it off. So just untie the knot. Pull the rope out. Now you have your striker, which is this guy, and your ferrocerium rod separate. You need to do this in order to make a spark. You'll never get the angle right if you have it on the string. Now believe it or not, you can actually hold this thing upside down. This will be your top, this surface here, and the way you tell is this edge is completely smooth. It's lipped down. You can feel the curve. You don't want to hit the ferrocerium rod with the side that you can feel the curve on. On the opposite side here, you can even probably see it. You can feel there's a sharp, not sharp, but there's a lip. Now you want to be hitting the ferrocerium rod with this lip. This is how a ferrocerium rod comes from the store, with the black coating. That black coating is to protect it from rust. You need to scrape that off before it will spark. It will never spark with this black coating. So you want to expose, let's see if I can get in the camera. You want to expose this shiny silver surface underneath the black coating, and that's what's going to get it to spark. I have them separate, not on the rope. I'm going to be hitting the shiny part with the lip. I'm not sure if you see that. Now this is what I'm using for tinder. It's a 100% cotton ball that I soaked in Vaseline. And Vaseline is petroleum jelly, so this will catch a spark better than just the natural cotton ball will. There is a bunch of really good tenders you can use. If you have access to birch bark is phenomenal. Char cloth also will catch a spark really well. For those of you who don't know what char cloth is, how would I explain that? I'm going to do a video on how to make char cloth. You actually have to make it. You're not going to find it naturally. I wouldn't recommend that you use poplar bark or aspen bark. That stuff doesn't catch very well. I don't know why, it just doesn't when I've used it. And my go-to guy for advice on ferrocerium rod fires was Mike from Bushcraft Bartons. Shout out to Mike at Bushcraft Bartons. Thanks for all your help with the ferrocerium rod, but he also doesn't recommend using poplar. So it's not just me, it's a bad tree for that in general. I think spruce will work, but now I'm going back to ranting again. Let's get a fire going, guys. I treat fire as if it's a living thing. Now we can have a debate on whether fire is alive. I don't think it is, but I treat it as if though it is. and you should too. What I mean by that is you don't start off with a big piece of meat to feed a newborn infant, whether it's human or animal. And with fire, you don't start off with a big log and expect to make a fire with the big log. You can start with the big log and process it down and then use the pieces you've processed to get a fire going. But yeah, if you try to make your fire with a big honking piece of wood, it's not going to work for you. You're going to have to process that down. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the barking in the background. That's not actually my dog. That's way too, I don't want to say wimpy for my dog. There's actually foxes yelping in the background. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but there are foxes yelping. And I think they're coming from that tree line between here and town. That's super cool. I've never heard them before. Alright, sorry about the interruption. Let's get back to making a fire now. I just think that's super cool. This is batoning. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but there is more play in the blade than there was before, which sucks because I loved this knife. I've never batoned with it before. Guys, I would recommend that you use a fixed blade knife. Full tang, fixed blade knife for batoning. Now I got all these pieces from batoning down that big branch that I used from the piece I cut off. So I have my cotton ball here. And what's going to make it easier is if you crack it open to expose the cotton inside. What you want to avoid is using your striker hand to go slide down on the ferrocerium rod. Instead, you want to pull up with the ferrocerium rod, because what's going to happen if you do this, you might hit your pile of tinder and send it flying. It's better practice to just pull up with your ferrocerium rod hand. Let's give this a shot. I'm no expert. This may take a couple of tries. Then you want to get your other stuff on there as quickly as you can. Don't smother it. Let it burn. There. It is a bit windy today. I'm not going to make a huge fire. You want to try not to smother it. Start with smaller pieces first and then go bigger. Like I said, I'm not going to make a huge fire, but I want to get a little bit bigger than this. But basically, if you have flames like this, if you keep feeding it, it'll grow to whatever size you need. But I think my wood's a little bit wetter than I wanted it to be, so it's not catching as fast. If you have flames this size, then if you just keep feeding it dry stuff, then it'll grow bigger. If you can get a fire going that's this size, you can get any kind of size going. And that's just with ferrocerium rod and cotton balls mixed with vaseline. The beauty about a ferrocerium rod and striker is I could take these and throw them into a lake, take them out, and they will still work when wet. You can't say that about most matches. You definitely can't say that about lighters. And when your hands are cold, these are nice and big. You can't really trigger with frozen fingers and thumbs. You can't trigger the lighter as well. These are nice and big. There's not as much fine tuning or small pieces you have to work with. But yeah, like I said, my wood's a little bit wetter than I want it to be. Sorry about that, guys. My memory card filled up as we were recording there, so it cut off halfway through. As you guys saw, I got a fire going with using the ferrocerium rod and cotton ball with Vaseline. It wasn't as big as I wanted it to get, but it was still a fire. My problem was that the wood I was using was wetter than I thought it was. Had I known it was as wet as it was, I would have processed it differently. Believe it or not, you still can get a fire going with the wood with a little bit of moisture. Obviously, don't pull your firewood out of a lake or something like that. But if it's lying around somewhere and it's kind of a little bit damp and has a little bit of moisture content, you still can get a fire going with it. And but you just have to process it differently. I'll show you guys what I did wrong. Now, when I started off to get my kindling, I started shaving off pieces from the outside here along the bark. This side, the outside, will always be the wettest part of your branch or firewood. The driest part will always be the center. So, and when I was batoning, I was batoning it into slats parallel, like this. What you want to do instead with the wetter material is baton it into quarters, like an X or a plus sign, and you want to scrape kindling off the centerpiece there. I'll just show you quickly here. And this time I am using a full tang knife. It'll work a lot better for me. So now I have a half, and I'm going to baton it into a quarter now. This is the center, the core of the branch, and this will always be the driest part of your wood, because the moisture will collect on the outside first and it'll soak its way through. This is the stuff you want to scrape up to make a fire with. Like I said, if your branch is completely bone dry and no moisture content, you can start scraping right off the bat to get your kindling or tinder. But if you have a little bit of wood with more moisture, you want to scrape it from in here, like this. And not like this. Had I done that, my fire would have grown a little bit faster than what it did. The whole reason we start fires is to create heat. Now, when you first start off making your fire, your tinder has to be as dry as possible on your kindling. But as the fire grows bigger and generates more heat, you can put pieces on there that have a little bit high of a moisture content. It'll smoke a whole lot more as the wood dries, and it will grow slower, but eventually those pieces will dry out. I've gone camping with the wet firewood and got a fire going like that, but it was much more work and it didn't grow as fast as I wanted it to. But if you know what you're doing, you can still get a fire going with wood that has a little bit higher of a moisture content. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry I messed it up my first time around, but if you follow my advice in the second part, it'll give you a lot better advice of how to process your wood into firewood. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment your thoughts. If you want to see more content from me and more videos, hit subscribe. And if you want to see what I'm up to in between videos, follow Bushcraft Jerry on Facebook and follow Bushcraft Jerry on Instagram. I'll be posting pictures there and what I'm up to in between videos. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you'll come back next time and we'll keep learning together.